Case 1. Robert Fry is known in New Mexico as one of the most dangerous people ever sent to prison in the state. He was born on August 18, 1973, and he grew up in the Farmington area with his family. Many people in that community remember his name because his actions caused fear and sadness for many years. He was linked to 4 murders that happened between 1996 and 2000. These crimes happened in Farmington and other parts of San Juan County. Because of how serious his actions were, Fry is still in a New Mexico prison today. Robert Fry's crimes became clear after the killing of a woman named Betty Lee on June 9, 2000. Police worked on her case and followed every clue they could find. As they followed these clues, they began to see that Fry was connected to more than just one crime. They later learned that he had been responsible for 3 earlier murders as well. On November 28, 1996, he killed 2 men named Joseph Fleming and Matthew Trecker inside a store in Farmington. These deaths shocked the town because both men had been working and going about their day. In April 1998, Fry killed another man named Donald Sosi. When all these cases were looked at side by side, the police saw that Fry had been harming people for several years before he was caught. Once the police gathered enough proof, Fry was taken to court. In each court case, the state showed what Fry had done using clear proof such as witness statements, physical items left at the scenes, and Fry's own actions during the times the murders happened. The judges and juries listened to everything and agreed that Fry was responsible for all 4 deaths. In 2002, Fry was given the death penalty for the murder of Betty Lee. He also received life sentences for the other 3 murders. Many years passed, and on June 28, 2019, the New Mexico Supreme Court looked at his case again. The court decided that the death penalty was too harsh under state law, so they removed it. Fry now serves life in prison instead. Because he has 4 first-degree murder convictions, he will spend at least 120 years in prison. Case 2. Clifton Bloomfield, a man whose choices brought great harm to many families in New Mexico. Many people in the state became scared of him because he hurt people again and again. His name became known all across New Mexico, and even in other places, because in the year 2008, he stood in court and said he was responsible for taking the lives of 5 people. When he said this in court, it meant there would be no long fight, no long waiting, and the families of the people he hurt could finally understand what had happened. Clifton Bloomfield's harmful actions started on October 24, 2005. On this day, he went into the home of 37-year-old Carlos Esquivel and ended his life. This was a very sad moment for Carlos's family, and it was only the beginning of more harm to come. Just 3 days later, on October 27, 2005, he went into the home of 81-year-old Josephine Selvage and ended her life too. At that time, police did not yet know that the 2 sad events were connected. The cases were treated separately at first, and no one knew that one man was responsible for both. More than 2 years passed, and in December 2007, Clifton Bloomfield hurt more people. This time, he went to the home of Tak Yi and Peng Yi, a married couple living in Albuquerque, and he ended both of their lives. This brought even more sadness to another family, and it added more concern for people living in the city. Then, on June 28, 2008, he went to the home of a newly married couple. Inside that home, he shot Scott Pierce, who passed away shortly after Scott had just started his new life with his wife, and this loss brought great pain to many people who loved him. After this final act, investigators moved very fast. They worked day and night until they arrested Clifton Bloomfield on July 1, 2008. The evidence against him was strong. Investigators found things that connected him to the cases, and he later spoke about what he had done in court in 2008. He admitted to all 5 killings. Because of this, a judge gave him 5 life sentences, plus extra years. In 2017, the New Mexico Attorney General also went to court again to make sure he would stay in prison for the rest of his life. Case 3. Paul Apodaca, known today because he admitted that he took the lives of 3 young people in the city of Albuquerque many years ago. These events happened in the late 1980s, long before many people living today were even born. For a very long time, no one knew who hurt these 3 young people. The cases stayed open, and families were left with sadness and questions. But in July 2021, something important happened. Paul Apodaca walked into a police station at the University of New Mexico. He sat down with the officers and told them that he was the one responsible for the 3 deaths. These deaths were of 13-year-old Stella Gonzalez in 1988, 21-year-old Althea Oakley in 1988, and 18-year-old Caitlin Arquette in 1989. His words surprised many people, including the officers, because these cases had been cold for more than 30 years. His confession brought everything back into focus. The information he shared helped investigators understand what happened. He explained how Stella Gonzalez was shot near a place called Tingley Beach. He talked about how Althea Oakley was attacked while she was walking home near the University of New Mexico. He also shared what he did to Caitlin Arquette as she drove her car near the streets called Lomas and Broadway. For a long time, families kept hoping for answers. They waited year after year, hoping someone would come forward with the truth. These cases had many questions with no clear way to solve them. But when Apodaca finally spoke, the information he gave helped investigators match the events to the evidence they already had. It allowed them to confirm important facts that had been missing since the 1980s. His confession also changed what happened in court. In January 2024, a judge decided that Apodaca would spend 45 years in prison for the 3 killings. He had pleaded guilty to 3 counts of second-degree murder. Before we move up to the 4th case, if you have found this video interesting so far, please support my channel by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. I'd really appreciate your support. Thank you. Case 4. Jose Romero and Nathan Garley are 2 young men who will spend the rest of their lives in prison because of a very sad shooting that happened in Albuquerque, New Mexico. A jury listened to all the facts in February 2025 and decided that both men were guilty of first-degree murder and many other crimes. A few months later, on June 19, 2025, a judge gave each man a very long punishment, life in prison plus 46 more years. Their actions caused the death of an 11-year-old boy named Froilan Villegas, and the whole state felt heartache when the news spread. Many people talked about the case because it involved a young child and an innocent family who were simply trying to go home after a game. On the night of September 6, 2023, many families were leaving a baseball game at Isotopes Park. It was the end of the evening, and people were walking to their cars with their children. Froilan, his mother, his cousin Tatiana, and his baby brother were sitting together inside their white pickup truck. They were ready to go home and rest. At the same time, police say that Romero and Garley were driving around the same area. They believed they were searching for a group of people they thought they were in a fight with. When they saw the Villegas family truck, they made a terrible mistake. They thought it was the truck of the people they were looking for. Because of that wrong guess, they fired many shots toward the truck. One of the bullets hit Froilan, and he later passed away at the hospital. Tatiana, who was in her early 20s, was hit several times too and became paralyzed from the chest down. Their mother and baby brother were in the truck as well. But thankfully, they were not physically hurt. Even so, the emotional pain for the whole family was very heavy. Detectives worked hard to solve the case quickly. They watched videos from the area, listened to people who saw what happened, checked phone information, and used other clues. All these things helped them connect Romero and Garley to the shooting. In court, prosecutors explained that the 2 men were trying to target someone else, but struck the wrong family. With this proof, the jury found them guilty of murder, shooting at or from a vehicle, and several other crimes. Case 5. Muhammad Atif Syed, a 51-year-old Afghan-American man who is now in a New Mexico prison after police said he was linked to 4 shootings that took the lives of Muslim men in Albuquerque between November 2021 and August 2022. These events frightened many families because the victims were attacked suddenly, without warning. When police later gathered evidence from Syed's home and his phone, they believed he was connected to several of the shootings. The first man who died was 62-year-old Muhammad Ahmadi on November 21, 2021. He was shot outside the business he helped run with his brother many months later. On July 26, 2022, 41-year-old Aftab Hussein was shot near his car. Only a few days after that, on August 1, 2022, 27-year-old Muhammad Afzal Hussein was shot near his home while walking outside. The last victim, 25-year-old Naeem Hussein, was shot on August 5, 2022. near a parking lot shortly after he had attended a funeral for two of the earlier victims. These events created fear across the Muslim community, and people worried about their safety. After the fourth killing, police worked quickly. They watched a gray Volkswagen sedan seen near several of the shooting locations. Police also received helpful information from members of the community. On August 9, 2022, officers stopped the car and arrested Syed. A search of his home revealed a rifle that matched shell casings from two of the killings. Investigators also used Syed's phone data, which placed him near some of the locations at important times. This information helped police build the case. In March 2024, Syed was found guilty of first-degree murder for the killing of Aftab Hussain. In September 2024, he pleaded no contest to charges connected to the deaths of Muhammad Afzal Hussain and Naeem Hussain. He received a life sentence on November 8, 2024, for the murders of Aftab Hussain, Muhammad Afzal Hussain, and Naeem Hussain. Under the terms of his sentence, he will be eligible for parole after serving 30 years, at which point he will be 83 years old. The case involving the first victim, Muhammad Ahmadi, is still being handled in the court system, and final decisions for that part have not yet been completed. Before we reveal the details of the next case, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate your support in helping my channel grow. Thank you very much. Case 6. Izaiah Garcia's name became known across Albuquerque because he was found guilty in two different murder cases, both involving young people whose lives ended before they should have. These cases brought deep sadness to families, friends, and whole neighborhoods. Many people in the city still talk about what happened because both cases showed how dangerous choices can lead to someone spending the rest of their life in prison. When people talk about the most feared inmates in New Mexico, Garcia's name often comes up because of the seriousness of these two crimes. The first case began in September 2019 with the death of a high school student named Shaun Markey. Shaun was at a homecoming party with other students. People were having fun and enjoying the night until a fight broke out. During that fight, Garcia fired several shots. One of the bullets hit Shaun, even though Shaun was not the person Garcia was aiming at. Shaun later died from the injury, and this left many families heartbroken, especially because he was a young student with his whole future ahead of him. After a long trial where many people shared what they saw and heard, the judge decided the crime was extremely serious. On March 23, 2023, Garcia was sentenced to life in prison, showing how strongly the court responded to the loss of a young life. The second case involved a young woman named Kayla Campos, who was only 21 years old. On a night in October 2019, Kayla and her boyfriend were sitting in a car playing a mobile game together. They were simply having fun and minding their own business when they saw a robbery happening close by. When they tried to drive away from the area, Garcia chased their car and fired several shots at them using a rifle. One of the bullets hit Kayla, and she did not survive the injury. Her death brought even more pain to the community, as people could not believe something so dangerous could happen to someone just trying to leave a bad situation. Police spent a long time gathering information, speaking to witnesses, and piecing together everything that happened. After another full trial, Garcia was found guilty again. On July 2, 2024, he received a second sentence, life in prison plus 13 more years. Case 7. John Gamble received a long punishment because he killed a friend when he was only 16 years old. Even though he was a teenager at the time, the court decided that the crime was so serious that he had to be tried as an adult, not as a child. Because of that choice, he now has to spend many years behind bars, and it is very unlikely he will ever live a normal life outside prison again. The crime happened in 2008 in Carlsbad, New Mexico. Police and court papers explain that Gamble got into a violent fight with a friend. He believed this friend had told the police something about him, and this made him angry. During the fight, Gamble punched the friend, hit him with his knee, and even used a rifle to strike him. The attack kept going until the friend could no longer move. After that, the friend's body was taken to another place, covered with gasoline, and set on fire. When people in the town learned what happened, they were shocked because the crime was extremely violent and because it involved someone so young doing such serious harm. Investigators worked carefully to learn what took place. They collected statements from people who knew what happened, checked all the injuries, looked at the burned body, and reviewed every detail they could find. All the signs pointed to Gamble as the person who caused the attack. When the case went to court, prosecutors showed the jury everything they had. They showed the bruises, the burn marks, the objects used in the attack, and the steps Gamble took after the friend died. The jury listened to all the information and decided that Gamble was guilty of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and tampering with evidence. Because of these crimes, the judge gave Gamble a 60-year sentence. Later, the New Mexico Court of Appeals reviewed the case and agreed with the original decision. State law also says he cannot get parole after 30 years, which means he must stay in prison for the full amount of time unless the law changes in the future. Case 8. Tonikweme Hamilton was found guilty of killing a man named Jose Sena in the city of Clovis. A jury in Curry County listened to all the facts shared in court, and on July 3, 2025, they decided that Hamilton was guilty of first-degree murder. A few weeks later, on August 1, 2025, a judge gave him a life sentence. The whole community learned about the case because Hamilton told police that he stabbed Jose Sena, and because the event made many people feel upset, worried, and heartbroken. The crime happened on March 18, 2021, in the middle of the day. Police officers were called to the area near Main Street and Townsgate Plaza in Clovis. When they arrived, they saw Jose Sena lying on the ground with several stab wounds. He was badly hurt and could not be saved. Right near him, officers found 2 kitchen knives that had been used during the attack. The police quickly began searching the neighborhood to find anyone who might be connected to what happened. Not long after, officers found Hamilton outside a nearby apartment building. According to what police and court records say, Hamilton told them things like, "It was me, sir, and I stabbed him." He also said that the victim had bragged on killing my brother, which made him upset. But this part of his story was never proven in court. Investigators kept gathering information, talking to witnesses, and collecting all the evidence they could so they could understand the full truth of what happened that day. During the trial, prosecutors showed the jury many important pieces of evidence. They showed the knives found near the victim. They showed the police reports. They shared statements from people who saw parts of the event or heard things related to it. They also explained what Hamilton said to the police when he was found. All of this information helped the jury decide that Hamilton knowingly took a life. Case 9. Timothy Allen is known in New Mexico for a very serious crime that brought deep sadness to a young girl's family and to the whole community. In 1994, a 17-year-old girl named Sandra Phillips went missing near the Farmington and Flora Vista area. Sandra was loved by her family, and when she did not come home, everyone became worried. Her family searched day after day, hoping she would walk through the door. They asked people if they had seen her. They looked in the places she liked to visit, and they never stopped hoping. But Sandra did not return. 6 weeks later, on March 21, 1994, Sandra's body was found. The moment police saw her, they knew something terrible had happened. The condition of her body showed that she had been harmed. This discovery began a very serious investigation. Detectives worked carefully. They talked to many people, checked many places, and followed every clue they could find. As they studied the information, everything began to point toward Timothy Allen. Police learned from witness statements, physical proof, and the places Allen had been that Sandra was taken against her will. Court records later showed that she had been kidnapped and attacked before her death. The details were very sad. One of her boots had been taken off, and her pants and underwear were pulled off one leg. These details helped police understand what happened during her final moments. When the case went to court, the state showed everything they had learned. They explained how Allen was linked to Sandra's disappearance and death. The jury listened to all the evidence, including what people saw, what science found, and where Allen was during the time Sandra was missing. After hearing everything, the jury decided that Allen was responsible for kidnapping Sandra, harming her, and taking her life. Because this crime was so serious, Timothy Allen was given the death penalty. His case stayed in the court system for many years, as different judges looked at it again and again. On June 28, 2019, the New Mexico Supreme Court reviewed his case one more time. They decided that under state law, the death penalty could not stay. The court removed it and ordered that Allen be given life in prison instead. Case 10. Shaun Lafleur became known in New Mexico because of a crime that brought fear and sadness to many people in Otero County. In 2024, police began searching for answers after his wife, 67-year-old Nancy Lafleur, suddenly went missing. Nancy had been staying with Shaun in the desert near Oliver Lee State Park, which is south of Alamogordo. When no one could find her and she did not return home, people became worried. Officers went out to the desert to look for her, hoping to find her safe. But what they discovered changed everything. On April 21, 2024, police found Nancy's body buried in a shallow grave. Her body was wrapped in a tarp, and when the medical team looked closely, they found she had died from 2 gunshot wounds to the head. This finding turned the case from a simple missing person report into a very serious homicide investigation. The news spread through the community, and many people felt deep sadness for Nancy and her family. As detectives continued their work, they followed every clue they found in the desert. They looked at objects left around the campsite where Shaun and Nancy had been staying. They studied the grave, the tarp, and the soil around it. They examined footprints, tracks, and anything else that could help explain what happened. Each piece of proof started pointing in one direction. Detectives learned that Shaun had been seen near the area, and his movements matched the timeline of when Nancy died. The more they studied, the more they believed he was responsible. On April 25, 2024, officers found Shaun near Cloudcroft, New Mexico, and arrested him. Police collected statements from people who had seen him, ran scientific tests on the evidence from the desert, and compared everything to the timeline of Nancy's disappearance. All of this supported the conclusion that Nancy had been killed and buried, and that Shaun was the one who did it. When the case went to court, the state presented the proof step by step. They explained how Nancy was found, what the medical team said about her death, and how Shaun's actions before and after the shooting connected him to the crime. After a 4-day trial, the jury listened to all the evidence and made a clear decision. On May 23, 2025, they found Shaun Lafleur guilty of first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. Because the crime was extremely serious, the judge sentenced him to life in prison. Case 11. Ameer Muhammad was found guilty of killing 30-year-old Aaron Sieben during a stabbing at an Albuquerque gas station on March 19, 2017. His story shows how a small fight that lasts only a few moments can turn into something very serious that affects many people for many years. It also shows how fast one wrong choice can change 2 families forever. One family lost a loved one, and the other family saw their loved one sent to prison for life. Police officers, people who saw what happened, and the courts all worked together to understand what took place and confirm the facts that led to Ameer's conviction. On March 19, 2017, Aaron Sieben was sitting inside his truck at a gas station on 900 Eubank Boulevard NE in Albuquerque. He was there during the day when Ameer Muhammad came near him, and the 2 men got into a fight. The argument grew quickly, and during that moment, Ameer took out a knife and stabbed Aaron several times. Because the injuries were very serious, Aaron died at the gas station before help could get there. After this happened, Ameer left the area and tried to get away. Police officers immediately began searching for him. They talked to witnesses, checked the area, and followed the information they received. Before long, they found Ameer and took him into custody. Reports later showed that Aaron's wallet was missing, and this detail supported the robbery charge added to the case. The next year, Ameer Muhammad went to court for his trial. During the trial, the jury listened to different types of evidence. They heard from witnesses who saw the fight, they reviewed police reports, and they looked at details from the scene. After reviewing everything, the jury found Ameer guilty of first-degree felony murder and armed robbery. On September 25, 2018, a judge sentenced him to life in prison. In New Mexico, this means he must serve at least 30.5 years before he can even ask for parole. Ameer later tried to appeal the decision, hoping the court would change the ruling. But on October 24, 2020, the New Mexico Supreme Court decided that the conviction would stay in place. The court said the trial had been handled correctly and the evidence supported the verdict. Case 12. Fabian Gonzalez and Jessica Kelly became known in New Mexico because of their roles in the 2016 death of 10-year-old Victoria Martins. Their actions brought fear, anger, and sadness to people across Albuquerque. Today, Gonzalez and Kelly are still in prison serving long sentences. Jessica Kelly was inside the apartment on August 24, 2016, when police arrived. Officers found that she had caused the injuries that led to Victoria's death. Fabian Gonzalez, who was also living in the apartment, ran away but was arrested soon afterward. Police learned that Michelle Martins, Victoria's mother, had allowed both Kelly and Gonzalez to stay in the home. This put her daughter in danger. The investigation showed that she made unsafe choices and trusted people who should not have been near her child. Each offender faced different charges as the case moved forward. Jessica Kelly accepted a plea deal for child abuse resulting in death and tampering with evidence. Because of her actions during the attack, the judge gave her a long sentence. In April 2022, she received 44 years in prison. Fabian Gonzalez went to trial. He was not convicted of causing the fatal injuries, but he was found guilty of child abuse resulting in death and several counts of tampering with evidence for creating the dangerous situation that led to Victoria's death and helping hide what happened. On October 27, 2022, he was sentenced to 37.5 years in prison. Michelle Martins was also held responsible for her part in allowing danger into the home. She admitted that she failed to protect her daughter. She pleaded guilty to child abuse, resulting in death for allowing unsafe people around Victoria. She received a 12-year prison sentence. In October 2025, she was released on parole and must now follow strict supervision rules while outside of prison. Case 13. Angel Salazar's case gained attention because of how violent the attack was and how clearly the evidence showed what happened. Police, video footage, and investigators all helped put the story together and confirm the details that led to her conviction. On the morning of September 5, 2023, at about 9:45 a.m., Angel Salazar and a man who has not been identified were seen on camera walking into a room at the Days Inn, located on Central Avenue NE in Albuquerque. Inside that room was Ramon Martinez, the man who later lost his life. Reports show that Martinez was struck with a hatchet more than 80 times. After the attack, Salazar and the other man left the room. Police later followed a trail of bloody footprints from the hotel room out toward the street, and this helped them track where the suspects went next. Angel Salazar was arrested soon afterward. Police continued to search for the second man, who has still not been named in public reports. During the investigation, officers reviewed the hotel's surveillance video, examined footprints, studied blood patterns, and collected other evidence from the scene. All of these pieces helped build a strong case. In August 2025, a jury found Angel Salazar guilty of felony murder, second-degree murder, and tampering with evidence in connection with Ramon Martinez's death. On October 16, 2025, a judge sentenced Angel Salazar to life in prison. Under New Mexico law, she must serve at least 30 years before she can even ask for parole. Her conviction was widely covered because of the extreme violence of the attack and the clear trail of evidence left behind. The investigation into the unidentified man who was with her continues in the background, and police have not yet announced new details about him. Case 14. Craig Talbert Smith. Many people know his name today because he carried out very serious actions that caused deep and lasting harm. Craig Smith is now in a New Mexico prison, and he is considered one of the most dangerous people held there. On March 7, 2023, a judge made a very strong decision about his future. The judge said Craig Smith would spend the rest of his life in prison, and then added 60 more years on top of that. This extra time was added because the crimes were extremely serious. These crimes included the killing of his elderly aunt, a woman named Josephine Ortega, and the killing of another person named Terry Williams. When people in the community heard what had happened, many of them felt shocked and confused. They could not understand how someone could plan and carry out actions that hurt people so badly. The details of the crimes help show why the punishment was so strong. Official reports say that Craig Smith went into his aunt's home and attacked her. When investigators found her, she was tied with zip ties. A large amount of money, around $80,000, was also missing from the house. Police and investigators spent a long time studying every detail to understand what happened. Their work connected Craig Smith not only to the death of his aunt, but also to the killing of Terry Williams. The information in the case made it clear that these actions did not happen suddenly. They were planned ahead of time, and they caused great pain and loss. Because of how serious the events were, Craig Smith faced many charges. These included first-degree murder, conspiracy, kidnapping, and tampering with evidence. There was also another important part of the case. Some details involved Craig Smith's age at the time of the crimes. Even though he was young, the court chose to treat him as an adult. The reason was simple. The harm caused was so great that the court believed he should face the full adult-level punishment. The biggest turning point came when the case finally reached the courtroom. The judge listened to all the information, looked at all the evidence, and made a final decision. The judge believed the actions were far too serious for any lighter punishment. This is why the sentence became life in prison plus 60 years, making sure Craig Smith will remain behind bars for the rest of his life. If you enjoyed watching this video, please subscribe to my channel. I will be posting more interesting videos on the channel every day. Thank you for watching.